Hey, welcome to my channel, The Way What Is Truth. Remember to like, subscribe and comment down below. Now, I would just like to make this a relatively short video. It might end up being 10 to 15 minutes long, I don't know, you know how I am. I'd like to talk about the glory of God's creation. Now, we are living in a busy world full of hustle and bustle. Most people have jobs to go to or they're in full-time education. We are busy, we have families. Most people have families. I don't have any children personally, and I hope and pray that I never do. But yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that we are busy, okay? We don't always appreciate the nature around us or the glory of God's creation. Now, I live in Nottingham, and it's not exactly what you describe the most scenic place on earth, but even here there are parks, there are nature reserves. And as I've grown older, I started to appreciate nature and the glory of God's creation more and more and more, you know. When I was in my teenage years and early 20s and so on and so forth, I never really appreciated, well, I did. I always knew that God was the creator, but slowly but surely over time, I started to appreciate everything: cats, dogs, leaves, trees. Have you ever thought about trees, how they draw their moisture and water and nutrients from the soil, how the roots go into the soil and how those roots react to the soil and draw up all the nutrients through the trunk, and all the leaves grow, you know, and how many hundreds of years those trees last for? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever pressed your ear towards a tree? Some people say we can hear a heartbeat. You know, nature is incredible, and I've debated atheists in the past. I know a little bit about science, but I'm far from what you would call a scientist. I've learned quite a bit about science, but I'm not going to go into that. But what I will say is that life is incredibly complicated. Think about how human beings create robots, how much time and effort it takes to create an android or a robot. The human being that created that robot is infinitely more complex than any machine or robot we could ever create. Okay, we can make some very, very lifelike robots. And my argument to people who may be watching this video who says, oh, there's no creator, everything evolved from the first self-replicating molecule, nothing exploded, you know, as in there was nothingness, and then a big bang happened, and then everything was flung into outer space, and everything assembled itself over billions and billions of years by sheer chance. The Earth is the distance that it needs to be away from the sun in order for our tomatoes to grow in our conservatories. No, that's not how it works. We're talking about mathematical and scientific impossibilities here, right? Anyway, the Lord God Almighty is the creator of everything. So I'd just like to read two parts of two paragraphs out of the Bible, right? The first one is Hebrews 3 verse 4. For every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything. Again, reflect on that. For every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything. Think about that. Think about a house. You know, it takes someone to create it. A car. It takes someone to create it. Everything takes intelligence, including animals, humans. Our DNA is full of information. It's full of code. It's full of intelligence. You don't get intelligence from non-intelligence. You don't get life from non-life. That's not how it works. Have you ever heard of irreducible complexity? It describes something like a single cell or a single protein. Take a single protein. It's the most simple form of life there is on the earth, a single protein. And yet inside of that, there's a factory and like a conveyor belt and arms and all sorts of machinery and equipment on inside of it. If just one of those pieces of equipment went missing, then none of the single protein would function. It all had to be there right from the off, otherwise it just would not function. Think about the links on a bicycle chain. If just one of those links is missing, the bicycle won't work. It's the same with a single protein, it's the same with a single cell, and so on and so forth, okay? And it's the same story of the so-called first self-replicating molecule that evolutionists base their whole theory on, okay? There's more to it than that, folks. And basically the whole of this video is just to get people to reflect on the awesomeness of all the nature around us. Because as I said earlier on, oftentimes we're too busy doing our own thing. We walk past trees without even noticing how grand they are. We see cats and dogs every day in most parts of the world. We just take them for granted. Don't take nature for granted. Don't take life for granted. Don't take animals for granted. Don't take the sun for granted. I just want to encourage everyone to appreciate nature and the glory of the creation all around us, no matter what parts of the world we're living in. Some parts of the world are more beautiful than others, but each country has their own beauty. In my personal opinion, Italy is the most beautiful country in the world because it has a bit of everything. It has snow, it has heat and high temperatures, very, very similar to the Middle East in the south of Italy. It has everything. It has mountains, it has valleys, it has fantastic countryside that's indescribable. That's far superior to the countryside you get in the UK. I hate to say it, but it's true. And yet, each country has its own unique beauty to it. So wherever you're living, just open your eyes to what's around you. Now, some people may be watching this video and say, hey, what's your problem? I do appreciate nature, I do appreciate animals, I love trees, I love flowers and all the rest of it. But I'm just trying to draw attention to the majesty of God's creation, and sometimes what we see and what we pet and stroke and what we see growing out of the ground and the animals and the creatures and everything are far more complicated than what we realise. We don't realise the amount of engineering and genius that's gone into everything that's around us. Everything from all the insects, the plant life, the small mammals like mice, the birds of the air. Yeah. Anyway, the second part of the Bible I'd like to read out of is Romans 1:20. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Now let me read that one more time. Romans 1:20. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Okay. Now, I don't want to make the video too long. I'm just going to think, what else can I add? Yes, I just hope and pray that everyone who watches this video just spends more time with nature, because sometimes we live in urban jungles, we spend most of our time on the streets. We don't always get the time to enjoy nature and the glory of God's creation. So I'd just like to encourage everyone to spend more time out in nature, whether it's a nature reserve, a park, a forest, or whatever, a walk on the beach, whatever it might be. Because spending time with nature, it rejuvenates us. It clears our minds. Going for a long walk in nature, it clears our minds. And when we spend time with nature, at least in my case, I draw power from the Earth's energies, because the Earth emits an energy. So whenever I walk into a nature reserve or a park, or I walk past trees, I can feel that strengthening me and making me stronger and making me whole. Don't mistake that for nature worship. It's not paganism. It's not any kind of nature worship or anything like that. It's just appreciating the glory of God's creation, the scents and the smells of everything, and yeah. It always makes me feel better when I spend time with nature. I always feel rejuvenated. It always clears my mind. But when I walk the streets and go shopping and driving about, I always feel more tense. I always feel more stressed. And there's something that I've said to quite a few people over the years, and it's, if you want to learn about God and his personality, look at his creation. Look at all the birds he's created, all the different kinds of birds and all the beautiful colours that they're painted, that he painted with his own paintbrush. He painted those birds beautiful. It's art. The whole of all of nature and creation is art. That's what it is. Think of all the butterflies and all of the intricate little details on them, and all the beautiful little brush stroke marks and details and colours. Think about how perfect everything is. One bird I can think of that you know a creator exists when parrots can mimic human language. And think about the inbuilt intelligence it took. I mean, obviously that parrot doesn't know the words it's saying, but think about that. Think about the genius involved in getting a bird to be able to listen and mimic human language and then speak it out. And even though that bird doesn't know what it's saying, it's still doing it. That's more proof of a creator, because why do that? How does it make sense from an evolutionary perspective? From a purely empirical, physical, evolutionary, atheistic perspective, why would that be useful? A bird being able to repeat human language, it's crazy. And the more you look into nature and God's creation, the more you'll see the genius involved in it. It's just so incredible. I'm no expert on nature or animals or anything, and in this country there are no bears in the UK. There are no exotic birds that live out in the wild. It's not that kind of environment here in the United Kingdom, but nonetheless, there's still animals, there's still creatures, there's still birds here, obviously. But yeah. Anyway, I don't want to keep babbling on, but yeah, I just encourage everyone one more time to appreciate nature, whether it's the grass and soil underneath your feet, the trees around you, mountains, valleys, lakes, rivers. The ocean, the beach, and by spending time with nature, you can get closer with God, because you're surrounded by God's creation, His animals, His creatures, His plant life, all of the scenery, the sun, the air, the oxygen you're breathing in, and it's incredibly humbling spending time with nature and everything that God has created on the earth, and it's rejuvenating as well. Makes you feel so much better. So let's not spend too much time in our polluted towns and cities, and go to nature. Go to where the trees are to get closer to God. Okay, so yeah, I think I'll end the video now. I hope and pray that you're all well. Thank you for tuning in. Take care and bye-bye.